Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Earlier this year, the government announced a grant program to help fuel retailers on the Alberta side of Lloydminster. The grant is to help offset inequities that retailers close to Alberta-Saskatchewan border experience due to the carbon tax. The carbon tax is affecting retailers in Provost and Lloydminster, towns that are close to the border. That's a competitive disadvantage. Is the NDP government going to recognize the retailers in towns located a short distance from the border whose sales have been negatively affected by the carbon tax?
Honourable Minister of Energy and Parks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the honourable member for raising this issue. Of course, we worked with the City of Lloydminster and will continue to work with other communities to work through some of these pieces as the national carbon tax has not been phased in yet, and some of the differences between, of course, the Saskatchewan PST and the lack of PST on the Alberta side. So we'll continue to work with that. Certainly, we will. I am happy to follow up with the community of Provost or the Finance Minister. Will do so. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For supplemental.
Given that the town of Provost is located mere minutes from the Saskatchewan border and from the town of Macklin in Saskatchewan, and given that I've heard that the sales for fuel in Provost have gone down inversely to sales in Saskatchewan, the carbon tax, that's carbon leakage, my friends. Will the government commit to implementing the same grant that applies to Lloydminster to other communities that are close proximity to the border so that the retailers can be compensated for the loss due to the carbon tax?
The Deputy Premier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And we, of course, are working to make life more affordable for Albertans and Alberta families. And we recognize the unique challenges of fuel dealers. Many of them are families that own these fuel stations in the border town of Lloydminster. So in terms of that community, Mr. Speaker, we were pleased to work with them to ensure that our fuel taxes were properly aligned, and we are continuing to do that. And the City of Lloydminster offsetting the levy for fuel dealers continues to be that practice, Mr. Speaker.
Second supplemental.
Given that the carbon tax has affected communities and competitiveness across Alberta, and given that businesses are leaving rural Alberta at an alarming rate, given that prior to the carbon tax, Saskatchewan had a program so that the fuel cost would be the same on both sides of the border. Again to the minister, will the NDP commit to bringing in the same grant that applies to Lloydminster to other communities so that those who sell fuel, groceries and products won't lose business as a result because of where they live?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and of course we will continue to engage with communities in terms of ways that we can best support reinvestment of carbon levy revenues, Mr. Speaker, in particular for the commitment made to municipalities, several billion in municipal infrastructure investments. But I will point out, Mr. Speaker, that this province has an $8.7 billion tax advantage over Saskatchewan, given that Saskatchewan has extended the PST to things like children's clothing and construction, Mr. Speaker. That tax advantage in Alberta has only increased since the introduction of the Saskatchewan budget.